And great to have joining us today, author of a interesting novel, kind of a historical novel in a sense. It's called The Drifter, and we're joined today by Christine Lennon on the telephone. And Christine, good to talk with you. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, good to have a chance to chat with you for a little bit. Your book hits home a little bit because you went to the University of Florida, and my nephew went there. So we're Gator family, and the book has to do with that, right?
Go Gators! Yes, Gainesville is a really kind of a character in the book. You know, it does take place there in 1990 when I was a student, and I had a lot of fun, you know, remembering life there, and I still keep in touch with a lot of people from Florida, and it was really, I have very fond memories of Gainesville, aside from the memories of the event that inspired The Drifter, because those, the story was inspired by the Gainesville Ripper, who murdered 5 students in August of that year when I was a junior. So it's sort of a mix. It's like kind of celebrating that life at UF at that time, and also kind of mourning the loss of our innocence, because that really was in some ways what happened. You know, it was a very shocking event for anyone who was in school at that time, and so it's sort of a contrast between like the fun and the lightness of that town and something much darker that happened there.
Yeah, I guess, at that age, we're all in our, early 20s at that point, things like that. You don't expect something like that to happen, particularly back then. You know, now, unfortunately, I guess people kind of a little more numb to stuff like that. But 27 years ago, that was really shocking.
Yeah, it's a good point you're making, because we do, unfortunately, campus violence is something we see in the news and read about a lot now. And at the time, it wasn't as common, maybe it was, there were things happening that we didn't see because our news cycle was organized differently, right? We didn't have access to all the information. But I do know that over the years, when people have asked me where I went to school, and I said, I mentioned UF, and they said, wait, that's Gainesville? And you'd see this kind of flicker of recognition. And even if they lived in other parts of the country and had no connection to Florida at all, it was a story that stayed with them, because, if you're a college student at that time, it really was like, just to think that could have happened on a college campus, and how terrifying it was. I changed the details of a lot, so I don't want to exploit anyone's pain, and I definitely wanted to be respectful of the victims and their families. So it is a novel. It's fictionalized. So, but I do feel like that the feeling you get from that moment in time feels very true to me, and I wanted to communicate that in the story.
Yeah, how did it affect, we'll get to the story in the book in a minute, but how did it affect you? You said you're going into your junior year, so you had 2 more full years there. Were those last 2 years there, okay for you, or were you able to kind of get past it?
It's interesting, because I do feel like I used it as an opportunity to it did make me think about some things, right? Some choices I was making, and it felt, there's more of an urgency I felt through my life,
right.
and I was kind of, not taking it so seriously the first couple of years when I was there. I was just kind of finding my way and figuring out where I belonged. I think it's a pretty common experience for people in college to have that. And then, the last 2 years, I really kind of sharpened my focus and figured out, what am I doing here, right? What am I doing with my life? And I think anybody who has that kind of brush with this kind of life-changing moment, right, often they use it as a catalyst, right, for change. And I think that's what happened for me. But it's not my story. It's loosely based on my story. I'm not Betsy. The character is similar to me in so many ways, in that we did, work in a bagel store and then moved to New York. But beyond those kind of superficial comparisons, we're really very... Betsy's her own character. It's not. This isn't about me. And I do see myself in all the characters, right? A little bit, as any author would. But this is not my story.
And I never want to give too much away when we talk about novels. But like you said, it's based on 3 or 4 different women in college that this happens. So can you give a little capsule synopsis of what the reader can look forward to?
Sure. I think that I am always intrigued by these sliding doors kind of stories, where it's like what if I had done something slightly differently? What if I had taken a left instead of a right, or been 15 minutes later, or if I had just made that phone call, right? And so I think the girls in the story, their lives just sort of fall apart based on this event, and then it's about picking up the pieces, living with this kind of survivor guilt, maybe a little bit, and some anxiety and shame for not making great decisions, and then how do you fix that, right? Like, how do you in this story, the person that she thinks that she hates is the one she needs the most, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's about kind of untangling these friendships and finding out why these people are in our lives and how we can make more authentic connections with people. And that's really, so it starts in 2010 where my character is an adult living in New York and really plagued with this anxiety from in her past that's haunting her. And then she has to go back and kind of figure out the puzzle for herself and figure out how to, let herself off the hook maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea for a story because you can kind of delve into the emotional aspect of it. That's interesting for a writer, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I'm a communicator. I'm trying, as a journalist, I feel like, we all want to tell effective stories and real human stories. And I've been writing for magazines and kind of doing this lighter kind of stuff, but still, when I interview people, actors or whatever, for profiles, I still want to make a connection with that person and really get to know them. And that, for me, was the goal for this story, was to tell a thriller, kind of a suspenseful tale, but also against the backdrop of very real, emotion, which is what the kind of story I always like, whether it's a film or a television show. Like, nothing is ever all scary or all sad, right? There's always moments of humor and lightness kind of woven into it to make it a more nuanced story. So that was my goal.
Yeah, just for the audience not aware, you've written celebrity profiles, Jennifer Aniston, Lady Gaga, right? So
I loved the lady. She was great. Yeah, I've been doing that for a long time. I've had a lot of very funny experiences, but Lady Gaga was definitely one of the highlights. I met her. She was renting a house up in the hills here in Los Angeles, and I went to her house, and there was like a little miniature, like, Sistine Chapel ceiling painted in this house, and we sat down and had a glass of red wine, and she was wearing head to toe white and sitting on a white sofa with a white carpet. So it was kind of funny, a little suspense in its own right, like whether that outfit was going to stay white after all that red wine. But
it wasn't the meat suit then.
No meat suit. No, not that day. She was actually really lovely. I had a great time talking to her, and I found her to be a really genuine kind of person, despite all this weird artifice that she kind of projects into the world. I really enjoyed talking to her.
Yeah, she's got a great singing voice and a great musician, because I've seen her work with Tony Bennett, so she can do those types of songs. If you can do those kind of music, you can sing, and she can sing.
Yeah, so she's got talent, that's for sure. I mean, I think I loved her Super Bowl performance, too. I thought she really showed a lot of range with that, and and she was at the Grammys, I think, with Metallica. Obviously, she's got pipes, so she could do anything she wants. I think she's just choosing this kind of artistic expression and, kind of trying on a bunch of different things. So I couldn't do it. I'm glad somebody can.
Well, this book, again, is called The Drifter, and, again, based on what happened up in Gainesville, but a fictionalized version, but a great a novel nonetheless. And we've been talking with Christine Lennon today. I wish we had more time, but Christine, give out your website. People can get more information about the book.
Oh, sure. It's ChristineLennon.com, and you can find out all information, on there, where to buy it. It's on Amazon, obviously, in some Barnes & Noble, and it's at Target stores nationwide. And, I'm just trying to get the word out and hope people enjoy it.
Great. Christine, pleasure talking to you. Hopefully we can do it again. Thanks for being with us today.
Great. Thanks for your time.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.